US officials have just announced that a hacker has tried to poison the water system in Florida. They reported that a computer hacker gained access to the water system and attempted to pump it full of a dangerous amount of chemicals. US officials said the hacker was successful to an extent, as they managed to increase the amount of sodium hydroxide in the treatment system. However, workers quickly noticed the change and reversed it. Those who work in water treatment said that lye is used in small amounts to control acidity, but putting a large amount could have major consequences. Old Star Mayor Eric Seedale said the following: "There's a bad actor out there. As of right now, those investigating the case have said no arrests have been made, and that it's not even known if this was done by someone within the United States. The hacker was able to do what they did by hacking into the water treatment system. An operator who was working that day didn't initially realize what was going on, and thought it was their supervisor who had made the changes. But once the hacker got into the system again in the afternoon, alarm bells started going off. It's reported by investigators that the treatment software increased the sodium hydroxide content from 100 parts per million to 11,100 parts per million. Noticing that this could be very dangerous, the operator immediately reduced the level to normal. Residents though were left questioning how an individual would be able to do this, and what stops them from doing it again at a different location. They now know they can hack into the water system, so who's to say they won't do something worse? County Sheriff Bob Giulitteri said the following: "I'm not a chemist, but I can tell you what I do know, and that's if you put that amount of substance into the drinking water, it's not a good thing. At no time was there a significant adverse effect on the water being treated. Importantly, the public was never in danger." End quote. What's worrying is that security experts have been warning about these kinds of attacks for years. Daniel Zafar, manager of analysis at Mandiant Threat Intelligence, said the following: "Since last year, Mandiant Threat Intelligence has observed an increase in cyber incidents by novice hackers seeking to access and learn about remotely accessible industrial systems. Many of the victims appear to have been selected arbitrarily, such as small critical infrastructure asset owners and operators who serve small populations. Through remote interactions with these systems, actors have engaged in limited impact operations, but none of these cases has resulted in damage to people or infrastructure. Fortunately, industrial processes are often designed and monitored by professional engineers who incorporate safety mechanisms to prevent unexpected modifications. We believe that the increasing interest in industrial control systems by actors of this nature is the result of the increased availability of tools and resources that reduce the barrier to learn about and interact with these systems." End quote. Over the years, people have discovered strange things coming out of their taps in their homes. The most recent one came in the form of purple water. This happened to residents in Ohio. They said that when they turned on their taps, pink water came out. Incredibly, this affected all households and businesses in the region, with many wanting an answer for what this strange substance was. For a short time, it was a complete mystery, and no one had any idea as to what was causing it. However, after a short investigation, it turned out the colour was due to a problem at the water treatment plant. It was reported that large quantities of sodium permanganate leaked into the plant, causing the water to turn this colour. The chemical is used to improve the smell and taste of the water. However, what many had concerns with is when they were told it was safe to drink. As you can imagine, not everyone felt entirely comfortable with this, and many compared it to the time drinking water turned black. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. Going back a few years ago, officials said that residents in Texas should not be alarmed as the black water is safe to drink, but many residents were angry, as they didn't feel like it was safe. It was soon reported by many that the black water came out of taps in bathtubs, sinks, and was even going into their washing machines. However, water officials did say there is nothing wrong with the water. They said the black colour comes from having too much iron in it, and even encouraged people to drink it. Photographs and stories soon started to be shared on social media, with people nodding disgusted that they were told this was okay to drink. One person said they'll drink it once they see a government official drink it. The majority of people weren't buying that this water was safe to drink. The black water had been an issue for residents for over a week. Some residents were so frustrated that they started to post videos online, saying that they wanted answers for why it's been like this for so long. Others said they had no choice and had to wash and drink the water. One resident said the following: "How can they expect people to drink this stuff? It looks horrible. Never have I seen black water, and never have I heard people drinking black water. This isn't right." End quote. One homeowner scooped up some of the leftover water onto her finger and showed what looked to be a dark brown substance. The resident collected some of the brown water in a jar, explaining that it was not right for the city to expect people to come home and see black water coming out of their taps, and not only that but also expecting them to drink and wash in it. The infamous Roswell event happened back in July 1947. The story details that a large craft made contact with the ground near Roswell, New Mexico. W. McBrazel, a rancher near Roswell, New Mexico, found wreckage in 1947. Because there had been so many other flying saucer sightings that same year, Brazel believed this wreckage had to be something similar. Major Jesse Marcel was sent to investigate the site and recover the wreckage. He announced in a press release that they'd recovered a flying disc, but the next day they said it was only a weather balloon. However, later on the Air Force claimed that neither stories were true, and that it was actually a device used to spy on the Soviet Union. Strangely, after going back on their statements, people quickly forgot about the incident, even though a matter of days prior their government admitted they had discovered the wreck of a flying disc. However, when more information was released about the wreckage, and when those who were at the site started to talk about some of the things they'd seen, new interest started developing. UFO researchers said that Roswell is one of the most important events in regards to ufology, and they are surprised that people haven't pushed this more and demanded about what came down that day. Amateur researchers have said that these military officials are not stupid, and that they know the difference between a UFO and a weather balloon. It's reported that when the initial news broke that it was a UFO that was discovered, people started to panic, and this was the main reason why the military went back on their words. For the last few decades though, those who worked at the location of the crash and who were told inside information came forward with their stories. Matilda O'Donnell McElroy was a senior master sergeant in the Women's Air Force. Documents show that she had an incredible encounter with a humanoid. She claims this individual went by the name of Errol, and they told her where they'd come from and why they were visiting planet Earth. At the time of this encounter, Matilda was only 23 years old. She claims she was able to communicate with the humanoid through telepathy. This Errol, who Matilda was in contact with and who she was interviewed by, said there was notable differences between her and this being. Firstly, she stated that Errol was not a biological entity like herself, but said that she did have a female appearance and that she was the size of a child. During the crash there was 3 of them on board and she was the only survivor. Interestingly, Matilda's report matches what many abductees have said. She claims that the being's body wasn't like a human's, but rather seemed to be made of some type of synthetic material. Those who have looked into UFO abductions have said these alleged aliens do come across as robotic, and it's caused some to say they're similar to working robots. Some abductees have said that while observing these beings, they were very robot-like, not blinking, moving in bizarre ways and not showing any type of emotion. When Matilda was later interviewed for a book, she theorized that the craft was made out of the same material as the alien, and that both of them could be controlled by the mind. She did say, however, that Ariel didn't release much information to her, and that she was reserved about certain topics. Matilda even went as far as saying that it came across that Ariel didn't trust the military officials. The nurse then took this as a warning, and thought that if aliens didn't trust humans, it doesn't reflect well on us as a species. When questioned about where they came from, Ariel claims that her civilization is an ancient one that's very powerful, and that their end goal is to progress. McElroy penned a letter which reads as follows: "Mankind needs to know the answers to questions which are contained in these documents. Who are we? Where do we come from? What is our purpose on Earth? If there is intelligent life elsewhere in the universe, why have they not made contact? It's vital that people understand the devastating consequences to our physical and spiritual survival if we fail to take effective action to undo the long-standing and pervasive effects of alien intervention on Earth." End quote. Interestingly, this story links up with an account which came from a mortician named Glenn Dennis. According to Dennis, who was a nurse at the Roswell Army Airfield, she said she witnessed doctors examining creatures that resembled humans, but had long thin arms and very large bald heads. Dennis reported that there were requests for child-sized caskets around the same time. The TV show UFO Hunters interviewed Elle Fulford, who was at the site and helped clean up the crash, and also at the time one of the last surviving people who was actually at the crash site. Elle said the material they picked up was lightweight, and when they screwed it up it was able to return to its original form. The UFO Hunters team laid out several materials, some of which included everyday foil and also mylar foil. However, when Elle picked this up, he said it didn't match what he picked up at the crash site, and went on to note it was too heavy. He said the material he picked up at the site was pretty much weightless, and that no matter how much you tried to tear it up or scrunch it up, it would always return to its original shape, saying that he'd never felt a material like it before. The team, without Elle's knowledge, managed to recreate a material based on what he described, and when he picked it up he described it as being a close match. He said the following when he picked up the material: "This one feels more like the material. We could squeeze it and it would pop back. The thickness and weight is similar. It makes chills run down my back." End quote. As of today, many believe there's many things we aren't being told about the Roswell incident. The Dyatlov Pass incident in many people's eyes has remained a mystery, but now scientists from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology have said they finally closed the case on what happened. The Swiss Federal Institute of Technology used state-of-the-art technology and created computer models to prove their theory. Scientists said that what actually happened was an unusual type of delayed avalanche, and this was the cause of their demise. For those unaware, the Dyatlov Pass incident happened back in 1959. At the time, the Soviet Union was still hidden behind the Iron Curtain that blocked all information from effectively getting out into the media, or even the rest of the world. During this era, a mysterious incident had occurred that still inspires fear and curiosity. Known as the Dyatlov Pass incident, 9 ski hikers went out to the northern Ural Mountains between the 1st and 2nd of February, in the hopes of conquering the area that was feared by the locals due to superstitions and strange rumours. These hikers would hope that exploring the region that would put to rest any worries the locals had, and hoped that by doing this it would pave the way for new hikers to visit the area and enjoy the scenic beauty of the region. Unfortunately, this decision would lead to the death of the 9 highly trained and experienced hikers, and would solidify the superstitiousness of the area. On the 26th of February, a rescue team had discovered the group's abandoned and badly damaged tents that had been established on the slopes. The sight seemed perplexing, as it became apparent that the tent was cut open from the inside, as if the group had begun panicking and cut through the tent in an effort to get away from something that was attacking them. The bodies of each of the individuals in the group were found in a nearby ravine, and this was after following their tracks in the snow, which only led to more mysteries as the majority of the bodies recovered were dressed only in their underwear, as if they ran out into the darkness of snow without first getting dressed, and then presumably froze to death. As the investigation continued and the bodies of the deceased were put under examination, the theory of hypothermia soon came into question. Medical examiners discovered that each person suffered from internal injuries commonly seen in a car crash, or after a massive amount of pressure and force comes into striking contact with a person. This led many to believe that perhaps the individuals were attacked by a non-human entity, capable of causing such terrible force and leading to their deaths. Unfortunately, this theory and others like it can never be confirmed nor denied. However, fast forward to the present day, and researchers from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology have said they've cracked what happened. After creating different models and scenarios, the team said that what most likely happened was the hikers caused a cut in the snow while they were settling down for camp. This in turn caused a small section of the surface to form what they described was a shoulder. They did this because they believed it would shield them from the elements. The scientists said though this was where they made a fatal error. Creating this shoulder led to it creating an avalanche, the thing they said eventually caused their demise. When questioned about the hikers and how they were found in unusual places, and even with certain body parts removed, they said that this was normal and this is usually seen when a slab avalanche hits. Professor Alexander Prozrin, one of the lead researchers at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, said that the cut snow and an unusual weather event known as katabatic winds was enough to trigger the event. Katabatic winds carry strong air down a slope, which in turn helps it carry snow. The professor said the following: "The katabatic wind probably drifted the snow and allowed an extra load to build up slowly. At a certain point a crack could have formed and propagated, causing the snow slab to release." End quote. Co-author Dr. Johan Guillaume said the following: "We used data on snow friction and local topography to prove a small slab avalanche could occur on a gentle slope, leaving few traces behind." End quote. The mountain where the hikers were is notorious for strange happenings, and for being hazardous. In fact, the mountain's name means "don't go there" in the language of the Mansi. Scientists have said the case can now be laid to rest, and that the hikers were unfortunately in the wrong place at the wrong time. Over the years, this theory has been the one that's been backed by researchers who have looked into the incident, and although it answers many questions, there's some that feel it doesn't explain everything. Amateur researchers have decided to do their own research and look into what happened, and they said there's a lot of details that scientists and researchers leave out when they present their theories. Interestingly, when you start looking into the history of the area, it was reported that there hadn't been an avalanche before, with locals and those who visited the region saying there's no history of avalanches that have been recorded, and certainly nothing that could cause humans any harm. Also, if there was an avalanche in the region, it would have happened at the exact point that the hikers were staying at, something that seems very unlikely. Another point is that when investigators started to look into possible causes, they found no evidence of there being an avalanche during the period in which the hikers were on the mountain, and that the injuries the hikers sustained didn't line up with this theory. With this news, it's only made some put forward the idea of a cover-up, and this brought in a wave of new theories about what actually happened to the hikers. One idea that doesn't get much spotlight is that the hikers were victims of escaped prisoners. Some suggested that during the time in which the hikers were on the mountain, war prisoners were roaming the area as they'd just escaped from a nearby camp, or accidentally been discovered by them, and in a moment of panic lashed out. This may have been the only option for them at the time, as they would have rather attacked people they didn't know than be turned into Soviet authorities. As mentioned though, this isn't backed by modern scientists, and they've said the case should be laid to rest. So what do you make of the Dyatlov Pass incident? Do you think the hikers were in the wrong place at the wrong time? and were victims of an avalanche, or do you think something else happened? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below, and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.